So I'm really happy to be here. My name is Caylee. I'm actually a product designer at Pariti, but in my current capacity, I see it's part of my role to be slightly obsessed with product. So I apologies in advance if I am a little bit rambly today, because I'm actually sitting next to my product heroine. This is Michelle from Sunkick, and we've also got Helene from Funding Circle. So I'll let you guys introduce yourselves.
Hi, my name is Helene, and I worked for Funding Circle for a little bit over 2 years now. We've done an extensive growth over those 2 years, going from about 10 people in the tech team, which I'm a part of. I'm a technical project manager, but work really closely with products. We are about 85 in the UK tech team now, so over 2 years we've grown from a little embryo to a huge, in my perspective, a very big company. I work with agile processes primarily, and I've done that for the past 8 years. Before that, I was a programmer. So that's my background.
Hi, I'm Michelle. I'm one of the founders of Songkick, and I'm Chief Product Officer. I don't think it should be anyone's heroine, because I definitely don't have it figured out. Our product team is 5 people on the product team and 4 designers, but our entire tech organization is probably, I'd guess, around 30. We recently merged with another company, which is interesting and challenging in its own way, but it's been super exciting. So we've been doing it since 2007, so I've learned a lot of lessons, made a lot of mistakes along the way.
Okay, so I appreciate that in this audience we're going to have people from a range of different backgrounds. So for those of you that maybe aren't product-based, my first question was just going to be, what does a typical day look like for you? So if I start with you, Michelle.
Okay. I don't have a typical day. I really wish that I did. I would say that I spend half my time kind of in one-on-one situations with the people that I manage, either just doing the one-on-one and kind of hearing their feedback and helping them along, or kind of deep diving with them on a problem. As I no longer directly manage any of the products, it's really about managing people and making sure that they're effective. So the other half of my time is in meetings with other people. So meetings, basically.
Pretty similar here. I work a lot with people, communication, a lot with the developers, and start my day with stand-ups, and then there's meetings. I work close with product. I spend a lot of time with the product owners, with the developers and one-on-one, and also with different team ceremonies, doing planning meetings, retrospectives, and those kind of things, and also kind of debugging things and getting things delivered and accepted.
So one of the really interesting things about both of you guys is you've both been working on the product for quite a long time, and like Michelle, you mentioned that you've made a lot of mistakes along the way. So we'll delve into that a little bit later, but I'm quite interested in why you guys might think that product is such a sexy space to work in right now, because that's my impression. Do you agree? And if you do, why do you think that is?
I do agree. I think throughout my experience, the role of a product owner has changed a lot. In the beginning, it's always been a role within Scrum and within Agile, but in the beginning of my career, it was more the best suited stakeholder would take that hat on and act. It was more acting as a product owner than actually existing, where it's now a very strong role, and it's very interesting. Especially with smaller companies and startups, it's like the product owner becomes this little kind of, you become a CEO of like a little company owning that product, and I meet a lot of really passionate product owner who really have a lot of passion for that part of the product that they own, and you see the drive in that, and I think that attracts a lot of people who may not be entrepreneurial enough to maybe start their own company or not ready yet, but they could get into the product owner role and kind of get a feel for that, and I think that's pretty great.
So I don't know if I agree that it's sexy. I certainly think that 99% of the job is incredibly unglamorous and doing a lot of the shit work that people don't want to do. But I do agree that over the last 5 years or so, there's been a growing kind of self-awareness as a role, and a growing self-awareness as a kind of a member of the tech team. I think when I first started, I didn't have the title of product anything, and just kind of was doing it, and then realizing as I was reading more articles and meeting kind of more companies, I guess in the Valley where it's more well understood, oh, this is actually what I'm doing. And I think also just in watching the industry and trying to hire product managers, there's more and more out there. More people are kind of self-identifying that way. I think 5 years ago or so, they'd be called BAs or product owners or even just designers or marketers that actually were playing the role of product. So I think there's just more awareness in the discipline and a lot more discussion around it.
Yeah. Okay, so on that, like, how would you hire a good product manager? What would you be looking for?
That's a really good question. I think it really depends on what type of product I'm expecting them to manage. I mean, the role is truly at the intersection of user experience, the business requirements, and technology. I think you need a different type of product manager depending on whether you're doing a consumer product or a B2B product or an internal tool. I always kind of think of PMs as leaning in, kind of having a center of gravity in either design, the business, or technology, like a previous developer, for example. And I really look to complement the team that I have. So if I have a lot of ex-developers and I look for a more design-oriented one, if I have somebody that needs to be out there talking to managers and artists and they have to be a lot more well-spoken and maybe more intuitive around those kinds of strategic issues. So it really depends on the team. But I think the non-negotiables are excellent communication skills. Like if they can't write clearly, like speak clearly, it's a big red flag. And similarly, just a lot of quant skills as well. So they have to be able to analyze the data and build models and kind of argue for why or why not we should do something.
Yeah. Okay, so we heard a little bit about who you see as being your team, but I wondered, in your case, like, who do you see as being part of the product team, or your project team at Funding Circle?
Obviously we'll have a product owner in all of our teams, and I think that's a very, very important and key person, because he needs to kind of come with all the strategy, all the goals, and kind of motivate the team. Then we would also have a product manager, a scrum master, say, a technical product manager, and usually we try to kind of combine the product owner's strength with the technical product managers and kind of make a good dynamic duo with the two of them to do the different roles that you would need in the team. So if you have a very technically strong product owner, you could get, someone on the project management side to kind of complement other parts of it.
Difference to you in those two roles?
I would say the product owner, she asked what the difference is. The product owner owns the how. Or what we're gonna do, set the goals, and look at the background of the project, look at strategy, work with the strategy team. Project manager would more own the process and how we do things and how we execute, and kind of own the agile process and try to improve how we work together, maybe work more closer to the day-to-day kind of development, and making sure that there's no problems in there. But we work very, very closely together, and it is a combination of two people that makes this that part of the team. And then we have developers, designers, back and front end developers and designers in a typical team.
Cool. Okay, this is going to be a tricky question for Michelle. How do you know you're building the right thing?
No, I think it's a really good question. I think you're building the right thing when it's hitting the goals you've set for the product, and kind of that's really the scorecard that you measure the product by. So I think it's even harder to know what goals to set and what metrics to set for the team to run at. So the way we run our team is every quarter we'll kind of decide what we want to do. Maybe it's grow monthly active users, or grow revenue. And we'll tell the team, this is what we're going to measure you by, and this is the number we think you should be able to get to, and whatever they build, if it does that, then that's the right thing. So it's kind of based on the results, actually.
How do you know you're building the right thing?
I mean, we work very iterative, and we do a lot of testing and all measurements, A/B testing, trying to get the feedback cycle as small as possible, kind of chunk up the work to be as small as possible, get things out in production. We kind of deploy to production about 10 times a day at Funding Circle today, so we try to get things out as we do them, and then we can test them on, you know, live users and have different segments of user and try to get feedback fast. I think that's...
Okay, so can we talk a little bit about product process and how structured that is?
Yeah, so we very similarly have kind of a process of product discovery, which is what Helene described, where you are constantly testing ideas, getting feedback as quickly as possible before you decide, or for us, before we decide to build it for real, as we call it. So all of these experiments and tests we are very disciplined about removing and taking down before we build it to be production ready. And that is really the core of how we know we're building the right thing and moving quickly. I think that's the really important part of our product process. We obviously also do stand-ups, retrospectives, prioritization meetings. I think the other thing that makes our product team extremely successful is we truly have a partnership between the product manager, the tech lead, and the design lead. They co-own the product. I think, you know, if somebody's ass is on the line, it's the product manager's ass, but the three of them really respect each other's skills, like disciplines, and input into what we build. And I think that partnership is super important too.
Okay, cool. So yeah, because I'm interested, like I read a lot of articles and I hear about these product processes that seem to be so structured. Like we do this and then we do that, and you know this is our space for this. And I'm just interested in like how real that is, and like you know, and Songcake and Funding Circle are both quite established companies, so maybe you do have this like Spotify-esque, very structured process. But you know, is that true? Do you feel like that's true for your organization?
Yes and no. I think that we are very iterative in terms of process as well. We kind of try things, very open to try different things, and also depending on what part of our, you know, what kind of product it is that you're doing, we use different methods, and it's, you know, it's not one kind of golden way to do things. And also with the agile processes, we try a lot of different things. We have kind of all of our teams, so we have about 10 different software teams in Funding Circle now. They work slightly different depending on who makes up of the team, what kind of things that we're working on, and I wouldn't say there's an answer that this is the right process to go ahead with, but you have to inspect, adapt, and you know, constantly improve and try different things.
No, it's never that clean and perfect. Having given lots of talks around process, it's certainly an idealized thing, and what's working for us right now, but I would agree it's extremely iterative. I think what we've done now that we've been around for so long is we know what works and we know what can't break, and that's what we try to hand on and teach and make sure the new product teams adapt, but we're constantly improving. There's always stuff that's going wrong, and you're always trying to introspect and make it better.
Yeah, because my company is really early stage, and I guess one of the questions that I've been having recently is like, at what point should we be trying to build a process in this? There's only 4 of us, so like, well, there's only 4 of us full time, so like, maybe this isn't relevant for us yet, but maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah. I think you have to remember process is a means to an end. I think a lot of people get really religious about process, like, are you Kanban, are you Scrum, oh my God. And I think it's just whatever works for the people that you have, and ultimately it's about communication and being efficient, and if you don't need a process, which you might not with 4 people in a room, then don't overdo it. I think some people really appreciate process because it's something to cling on to. It's like a crutch, you know what to do next, or you know kind of how to make a certain decision, and that's when it can be helpful, but certainly if it's not kind of stifling you and making you slower.
Okay, so I've got a question for you, Helen. So my impression is that you guys all work in like quite small cross-functional teams, right? Do the designers on your team, on those teams, do they handle multiple different groups, or is there like one for each like working group?
The designers are from that time. Yeah, so we actually don't have that many designers. We have 4 designers in total, so it's quite small if you compare with tech, which is 85. So like the ratio designer developer is so which kind of talks about what we're doing. A lot of our products are very back-end based, and it's a lot of coding rather than front-end and design, but we work a lot with user experience testing and a lot of that. So they run a lot of pre-work and work very close to product and investigating what would work. We're currently working on a new iOS app, for example, and the pre-work on that has been extensive and a lot of user testing. And then the designers come in when we're doing front-end work and pair with the developer, which I think is really important to kind of achieve the right thing. So a front-end developer would typically kind of pair with the back-end developer for some part of the work and with the designer on other parts of the work. So that's the cross-functional, and designers would work in any team that they're needed. Then a lot of teams wouldn't have a designer nor any front-end developer because it's just back-end work, it's just code or front-end. I mean, I'd say we have kind of full-stack developers who could do front-end, back-end both as well. So that's...
Okay, thanks. So I read that you taught yourself to code in order to collaborate with your developers better. Tell me about that.
Okay, I wouldn't call it coding. I took a general assembly class, and it was front-end development. So some of my devs have told me that's not real coding, but I got to a point where I felt like I needed to understand more their day-to-day and just try it out, and it was incredibly challenging. I think the thing that I appreciated the most about learning coding wasn't that I was actually able to code by the end, because I really wasn't, but it's more the mindset you're in as you're trying to build something, and how that means that you don't want to think about certain questions as you're doing it. You kind of want to know exactly what the end result has to be, and it made me appreciate why, as we're building something, a lot of the developers would come to me and say, should I do this or this, or should it do this or this? And previously I'd get frustrated and be like, just, you're smart, you can make the decision, why are you asking me? But it made me appreciate that they needed that focus, they needed that clarity to get their part of the work done. So that was what I learned, but I certainly wouldn't say I learned to code.
Okay, so I'm going to ask a few more questions and then we're going to hand it over to you guys, so start thinking about what you want to ask. If you had one tip for an aspiring product manager or team, what would it be?
As I said in the beginning, I think I'm lucky to work with a lot of very passionate product owners, and I think that's key to taking up a product owner role, is that you really have that, passion about the product that you're delivering, or that the company or the product that you want to do, that's something that you really would like to do. Don't get into product if that's not the case. Don't get into product just because you want to be a product owner. I would get into product because I believe in the product and I really want to make it different, make something different, or make it change, and I want to make it work.
Yeah, I don't feel like I have a really good answer to this question, but it really pains me every time I go to Silicon Milk Roundabout and I meet so many smart, interesting people who want to make a career move into product, and they ask me all the time, like, what should I do? How do I make this move? And I don't know, because I guess I never really had to do it. I would say that what I would look for is somebody who takes initiative. So even if you don't have the title product manager in your role, grab ways to take those responsibilities on. I think there's a lot of talented designers, talented developers that could get involved in product without ever being granted that right or that permission. So just take that initiative for yourself and don't be afraid to just start doing that stuff.
So what's the one product you wish you'd built?
Yeah, when you emailed me this list of questions I've been thinking about, I don't know, because when we first started Songkick, I was obsessed with kind of using everything new and trying everything new. Now I don't, probably because I don't have time, or I've now tried out so many things that died or went away, and so I'm not really up on the new stuff. I would say probably for me, it's actually Uber. I think it's a brilliant product. I think, the way they've taken over the market has been amazing. The way they've been so aggressive is actually quite impressive, but I think that their leadership is probably sexist, so it makes me feel like I wish I started that company so they'd have better people in place at the top.
And Helene?
I was thinking about this question too, but it's more about the products that hasn't been built yet. Like, every day I stumble into things that I think is difficult or wrong or bad, or I'm Swedish, we're very efficient. I used to live in India before I lived here, and I stumble into bureaucracy, which is very inefficient, and I'm like, this should be a product, we need to fix this. I just bought a property, and that's just really difficult in this country, and I want to make a good product that, it make life better and easier, and it could be optimized something that takes 5 minutes to 1 second, or 4 months to a week. I think there's lots of things that still needs to change, and lots of products still need to be built.
So watch this space. Okay, do we have any questions? And Mickey, are you doing right?
What products couldn't your teams live without?
In terms of working, Slack and Trello are probably the main ones. Google Doc, Google Calendar, those are probably the main ones, yeah.
Yeah, Google Docs, definitely. Google, the whole Google suite, Google in general, Google search, GitHub would be one of them. I don't think we could live without. What else do we use? Some kind of chat program, HipChat we're using now, Slack soon. I think, that's it. The issue tracking system, somehow I couldn't live without, but Post-its work actually, also to a certain extent.
In my team, it's Sketch. We have like everyone using Sketch, back-end developers included. Okay, any else?
I'm a product manager from a non-technical background, and was just sort of interested about the sort of GA assembly course in coding, and whether you sort of, aside from the learning more about the sort of coding mindset, whether you found it useful to get that technical experience.
Well, they have a wide range of courses, so you can probably find one that's relevant to what you want to learn. I think I certainly didn't put as much into it as I could have. I think if I had worked harder on the homework and attended all the classes, I probably could have come out with a better facility, and I don't know if I could have gotten a job, but I could have started doing my own projects that would have been able to lead to getting hired, I think. So in general, like, the class is great, the teachers are great, it really is pretty hardcore, like they really try to push you to learn a lot, so I would definitely recommend it, yeah.
But in terms of sort of moving on with product management stuff, whether you found it sort of useful having that technical experience, or whether you could have sort of gained it otherwise?
No, I don't think I learned enough to be able to have a better judgment on technical decisions. Definitely not. It was more around communicating with developers, yeah. But it was a front-end class, so that's the caveat, I think.
Also, GA gave us the space for a room too, so we are big fans.
It was just a quick one to build upon your question earlier about aspiring product managers, because I looked into it before, and oh god, there was no water. One of the things I noticed, like when you look at job descriptions, and maybe this is playing back to the whole idea of women only, doing 80%, whatever, ticking the boxes, but it's always like, you need to know agile, you need to know Scrum, you need to know all these things. And I come from a big corporate, we don't do that, but it doesn't mean that I'm not a good manager. So, do you have to do a product manager course to become a product manager? How is it that? What do you think about that?
So when I hire product managers, sadly I do look for people who have direct experience, because I don't have the space to train new ones. But I would say, if you feel like you qualify for some of the key things, don't let that inhibit you from applying for a job if you don't check all the boxes. Like, that is definitely the case. I would want to reiterate that to anyone applying to any job. Don't feel like you have to qualify for all the bullet points, because I don't look for somebody to qualify for all the bullet points. I'm just putting them out there.
We have actually taken up a couple of juniors, where that comes from operations, that come from customer service and from borrower sales, and we brought them up as product owners into our team as junior product owners, and they have no experience whatsoever with anything around that, but they know our business, they have our core values, they know about the processes. So for our internal operations software team, will have a junior guy joining it from borrower sales, and that's, his knowledge is great.
Not an experienced, because if you've had someone, like, I was a manager for 2 years, right, and I didn't feel qualified to go be a product manager because I didn't have agile or Scrum.
But I mean, the Scrum, we put them on a 2-day Scrum course, and then we collaborate. I mean,
so you would do that, yeah.
So then say I would work with the junior product owner because I've worked in agile Scrum. So then the pair up between me and a junior product owner for a while, and then we kind of share experiences. They know the business, which is great, and they're very eager and very ambitious and really want to make changes because they worked on in the back end with organizations. So I would say maybe knowledge about other things and being a manager would be enough. And then the Scrum is not really difficult. It's like a concept to understand. If you a 2-day course is literally what you need, and then you need to apply it and you need to gain experience by doing it. So no one comes in with that to begin with. You can't read it. You need to be in the situations, really.
I was just going to ask, what do you guys enjoy most about your job?
I enjoy seeing people use the product and getting feedback on it. I think one of my sad, pathetic things to do when I feel crap about my job is to go on Twitter and read what people say about Songkick, and just making something that people really enjoy and actually helps them and that they love is the main motivation.
Yeah, I really enjoy what Funding Circle does as a company. Also, that kind of keeps you happy day to day, that we're changing lives for people around UK and US. Small businesses get loans, and people get earn money, and they get to borrow money for them, and it's breaking up the institution of banking, which is cool and new and disruptive. And the second thing is that I work with really great people. I think it's easy to work in communication and group dynamics and that kind of stuff when you are surrounded by really, really smart and intelligent people that really want to make do their best every day. So
I think maybe if we take 2 more questions. There was someone up the back there.
Hey, so I'm wondering about how you work with your CEOs. And maybe if you have stories from being early stage companies, how you realized that you had a distinction between being product owners or CEO.
So Ian and I early on had to really fight to create the distinction in decision making and things like that. I think it's a relationship like anything else, and so it's a lot of talking, fighting, making up, figuring out why you had that disagreement, understanding how each other makes decisions and to communicate and things like that. So it's a very deeply personal relationship. I think this touches on one of your other questions that you didn't get to, is around product strategy and company strategy, and really certainly for us, not in all tech companies, but for Songkick, it's the same thing. Product strategy is the business strategy. So you have to have a very kind of close and open relationship with the CEO to be successful, I think.
Yeah, it's similar. I mean, it's much different now when we're as large as we is, but our CEO is very much engaged and very much on the floor as well, and get involved in decisions. And it has been a struggle, who decides what and who prioritizes. I mean, and we try to push him further away. He's a very smart guy, so it's a pleasure working with him, but it's also you'll have to leave some decisions down to product, and it's a constant kind of back and forth with that.
Okay, so one more.
Thank you. So I was wondering, I didn't hear you talk about UX designers. Do you work with them at all, or?
Yes, I love UX designers. We have 3 UX designers and 2 visual designers. I think that they're severely underrated in the tech industry. I mean, not anymore now that there's all, Google Ventures is a design kind of consultancy and things like that. But they are able to kind of come up with interactions and things that product managers aren't. I did all the interaction design for the first few years of Songkick, and I think I'm quite competent, but that extra additional kind of point of view on it, and the time actually to come up with various options for the interaction is invaluable. So we work very closely with designers, and we completely kind of see them as valuable to the team.
Okay, so if I may precise the question, I'm working as a UX designer, and I find that the gap between the UX designer and the product manager is really, those two professions are very, very similar. So how do you manage, like on a day-to-day basis, the workload?
That's very kind of a well-trodden question. The relationship is it overlaps a lot, and there's a lot of decisions that are made that you could argue are design decisions. I think what we try to do is the product manager sets the aim of the feature or whatever it is we're working on. We're trying to achieve this. We're trying to get people to convert more, submit the form or whatever, and how that gets done. The detail of how the user interacts with the product to get it done is down to the designer. So often what we try to do is we set a brief or a goal for the feature for the designer, and the designer goes away and prototypes 3 to 5 options, and we talk about it, we get feedback. They get more feedback actually from the tech lead than the PM, I would say. It's like, you can't do that, that's gonna take 50 years to build. Why are you asking me to try to size that sort of feature? So it's a very close relationship, very collaborative, but I would say it's defining what's the goal versus how it gets done.
Yeah, so I introduced myself earlier as a product designer, and the reason I do that rather than call myself a UX designer is because my role involves constantly collaborating with Matt, the CEO of my company. We don't actually have a product manager or owner on our team. That's entirely a relationship between me, Matt, and also the other developers as well. So I call for people to call themselves product designers, but it's just unfortunate that the 3-dimensional designers have kind of called that name. Okay, well, I just want to say a huge thanks to you guys. Absolutely inspiring and brilliant, and continue doing the great work.